Hi, and welcome to Math for All, where everyone can learn more about math. Today's lesson is on equivalent fractions. But what does this mean? Equivalent is a fancy word that sounds a little like equal, and it just means that equivalent fractions are fractions that equal the same amount even though they may look a little different. We're going to explore equivalent fractions today by showing you pictures how you can make equivalent fractions. We'll go over examples of equivalent fractions and show you how to make them from any different fraction. We'll also reduce fractions to what we call lowest terms, or reduced form. And then, of course, we'll practice what we've learned. Let's take a look at some pictures to show how we can make equivalent fractions. All of these circles have the same amount shaded. The fraction of the first circle is 1 shaded over 2 total, or 1/2. The next circle is also 1/2, but watch as I slice each section into 2 pieces. Now there are 2 pieces shaded with 4 total pieces, so we have 2/4. Moving over to the next circle, I will cut it into even more equal-sized pieces. I will slice it horizontally, then cut diagonally through all of the pieces. Now the shaded portion of this one is 4/8, or 4/8. Using these pictures, you can see that 1/2 equals 2/4, which also equals 4/8. There are an infinite number of fractions equal to these if I keep slicing away. Notice how these numbers and fractions are related. From the 1/2, I multiply the top by 2 and the bottom by 2 to get the 2/4. Then I multiply the top, remember it's called the numerator, and bottom, the denominator, of the 2/4 to get 4/8. I show this multiplication with these rainbows to remind myself to do the same thing on the top and the bottom. This brings us to a rule that you should remember. You may multiply or divide the numerator and denominator by the same number to make an equivalent fraction. Watch these to see how it works. First, we will multiply. I have the fraction 3/5, and I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by 4 to make an equivalent fraction. Remember, you can choose any number to multiply by. I just happen to choose 4. I like to draw these rainbows to remember to multiply both numbers by 4. My new equivalent fraction has 3 times 4, which equals 12 for the top, and 5 times 4, which is 20 on the bottom, for an answer of 12/20. This is still equal to the original 3/4, even though it looks different. Next, we will divide the top and bottom to create an equivalent fraction. Take this one, 36/48. I can pick a number that goes in evenly to both of these. I can choose 6 or 4 or 2 or even 12 to divide by. Let's choose 6. Drawing my rainbows to my new equivalent fraction, here my numerator will be 36 divided by 6, which equals 6. The denominator is 48 divided by 6, which is 8, making 6/8. Let's use your new knowledge to do something called reducing fractions, or answering in lowest terms. You learned that any fraction can look many different ways. 2/3 is the same as 4/6, or 6/9, or 50/75, or infinitely many others. Your math teacher doesn't want to figure out if your fraction is equivalent to their answer, so they will ask for it in lowest terms, or reduced form. This means that they want the answer so that the numerator and denominator are not evenly divisible by the same numbers. So, before you give any fraction answer, you need to see if any number goes in evenly into the top and the bottom. And we divide when we reduce fractions. Time to look at a few of these to see what I mean. 15/20. You need to look at both numbers and determine what number goes into both. I look at one of the numbers, like the 15, and see what goes into it. I know that 15 is 3 times 5 and 15 times 1. Do any of these also go into 20? Yes, 5 does. So let's divide both by 5 to reduce this fraction. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 20 divided by 5 is 4, so we have 3/4. Next, you must check to make sure it is fully reduced, and because 3 and 4 are right next to each other, I know that it is in lowest terms. That is a trick that is good to remember. Next one, 27/45. Think about what number goes into both of these. 3 and 9 do. Pick the bigger number to divide by because it is less work. So dividing the numbers by 9 gives us 27 divided by 9, which equals 3. Then 45 divided by 9 is 5, an answer of 3/5. To reduce 11/44, see what goes into 11. Well, just 11 and 1. But is 44 divisible by 11? Yep. So across both gives us an answer of 1/4. This next example shows that if you don't see the biggest number that both are divisible by, it will still work. It's just more steps. 16/32. Both of these numbers are divisible by 2, 4, 8, and 16. But maybe we didn't notice that, and maybe we just see that they're both divisible by 4. So we do what we've learned. Divide the top and bottom by 4, and we get 4/8. Looking at that, we need to go a little further, dividing the 4 and 8 by 4. This will give us our final answer of 1/2, or 1/2. You can divide repeatedly as many times that you need to get the fraction into lowest terms. It's time to practice what we've learned. First, with a picture to remind us what's going on, we'll make an equivalent fraction. What is the fraction shaded of this bar graph? There are 2 pieces shaded over 7 total, which equals 2/7. I will cut all of the second bar's pieces in 2 by slicing right across here. Now, the number of pieces shaded are 4, and the total number of pieces are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, making 4/14, an equivalent fraction to 2/7. Next is another exercise to find equivalent fractions. 3/10 equals 18 over what? We'll draw our rainbows and figure out how did that 3 turn into an 18, remembering that we can only multiply or divide. 3 times what equals 18? 6. This tells us that the top and the bottom need to be multiplied by 6 to create an equivalent fraction. 10 times 6 equals 60, so 3/10 equals 18/60. Finally, we're going to practice reducing these fractions into lowest terms. 12/18. Remember, we need to decide what number goes into both of these evenly. I know that 6 does, and I divide the numerator and denominator by 6. 12 divided by 6 equals 2. 18 divided by 6 equals 3. The fraction then, in lowest terms, is 2/3. Now we have 36/48. I notice that these are both divisible by 4, making 9/12. Oh, but I'm not done yet, because 9 and 12 are both divisible by 3. More rainbows here. Dividing both, I get 3/4 for my final answer. This shows that you can divide numerous times if needed to get the reduced answer. If we would have noticed that both 36 and 48 are divisible by 12, we could have done this in one step, but it's no big deal if we use 2 or even more steps. So today you learned that you can make equivalent fractions by multiplying and dividing the numerator and denominator by the same number. Great job today learning these equivalent fractions.